Let's jump to Lou Lamoriello. Lou came in and had some early success with the Devils team that wasn't very good, and they made the playoffs, I think, maybe second year out, and had a bit of a deep run. And then, you know, he talks about them the next year, they all kind of thought they were winners and fell off and missed the playoffs the second year. And he said, you know, in that second year, we really weren't the same team that we should have been. We didn't play well, and we didn't make the playoffs. But, you know, after then, they just took off. But he says there's always something to be learned out of losing, but there's more to be learned from winning, and for whatever reason, you don't pay attention to the detail when you win than when you lose. So his point was, if he had been more attentive in that year after a good season, maybe he might have averted that. So that is kind of counter to what a lot of people might think, which is, and I'm sure you're going through that right now, which is a deep examination of what you're doing. How do you balance the winning and losing and what you learn from each?
It's interesting because, and I don't know if it's because of Lou's experience but it's one of the things you find is that after you win, that's what you try to do. You try to go back and seek out the teams that have won before and then weren't able to repeat it, that they were that next year. And it's funny because even as you do it, you know, I remember talking to Jim Rutherford and being very honest about what I thought our problems were. Obviously, we have a work stoppage right after '04, so we lose a whole season. But just in terms of, you know, what I thought, where we fell short, and you talk about it and you say, you know, this is what you have to guard against after you win. And I know that at the time Peter Laviolette was doing the same thing with Torts, asking, you know, what mistakes did you make when you started that next year? And even as you know what the mistakes are, you still find that sometimes they're difficult to do. But I think that's one of the best lessons, and I learned it both from the Pittsburgh organization and Detroit. Both of those organizations will tell you that it was important, and I go back now to Pittsburgh when they were winning with Craig Patrick as the GM, not the modern with Ray there, but both Craig Patrick and Kenny Holland will say it's important that you have enough change up on your team. You have to change it up, that even after you've won and you fall in love with the guys and guys have made big contributions, that you have to change it up, and you want to try to change it up by bringing in guys that are hungry to win that cup, that you can't just go with that same group. And I think that's part of that analysis that Lou's talking about.
Well, both Pittsburgh and Detroit are the last two teams, of course, to get to a final back-to-back, but it seems increasingly difficult, obviously, parity-wise. But, you know, you look at the Canucks in Boston, you know, maybe there's just the pure thing of it that they play so much hockey over a kind of a, you know, a two-season period that it's just that
Bob Gainey had said this when he was the GM in Dallas. He said it's difficult to be hungry when you're full, and I think that's a big part of it.